Welcome to the Expletive Jets. I'm Gemma, and today we're doing a recap right after the second preseason game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. 17 nothing win for the Jets, which is cool, but pretty irrelevant. As we know, preseason wins losses don't matter. It is about player performances and noticing trends. What made this game so special, what hyped up, made the vibes feel good, is that Geno actually did start and he played really well. And we'll get into his stats and how he looked. I do want to go over the guys who did not participate, did not play. So you're still missing Kenyon Sadiq, D'Angelo Pons, Tavondre Sweat, and Sean Wright, Braylon Allen. Not Braylon. Brees Hall, obviously getting injured earlier this week in practice. Isaiah Davis still out. So some notable guys who did not get to play. Hopefully they're all back and healthy soon. I think Kenyon Sadiq is trending in the right direction. Don't know if we'll see him though. Despite this game not being crazy eventful, I do think there's a lot to take away from it and a lot to discuss. With that being said, I'll try to be as fast as I can. I don't want to go on too long. So let's talk about him. Geno Smith. We were all really excited to see him play, an actual game for the Jets again, since he's left and now returned. He only got one drive. I would have liked to see more, but I'm okay with the cautiousness. And to be fair, in that evaluation of him tonight, that one drive I think was enough for Aaron Glenn and Frank Reich to see how it looked. So Geno went a perfect 7 for 7, 65 yards, capping it off with a touchdown pass to Jelani Woods. Now to note about his 7 for 7, one ball was batted down at the line of scrimmage and caught by Dylan Parham. So if you don't know, Dylan Parham is an offensive guard for the Jets. So not really an intended pass to him, obviously, but it still counts as a completion. So Geno stays perfect thanks to some good hands by his offensive line there. I think that just kind of goes to show you Geno's performance tonight of what we can expect. Not in the sense that Geno's going to be a perfect quarterback and this offense is going to be blazing, but Geno has the ability to push the ball downfield, make completions, and all in all, just this offensive operation is going to look better with Geno than it did with Justin Fields than last year. So I think that's a good reason to be optimistic about this Jets offense in 2026 as opposed to last season. With that being said, I did kind of catch myself every time Geno dropped back getting nervous about his decision making. With Geno Smith comes interceptions. I think that's something I'm willing to accept, and I think other Jet fans are as well, considering we had a quarterback who was scared to throw the ball and put the ball downfield in Justin Fields last year. And we can live with those interceptions as long as they're not costly and not too abundant. And tonight was one of those nights. In that short sample size we got, Geno did not throw an interception, and he was thrown on target. So outside of Geno Smith, what I noticed from that first team offense, notable personnel change. Omar Cooper Jr. started. I know there was a lot of buzz about Isaiah Williams getting first team reps and Omar Cooper Jr. not. And tonight they went with Omar. So everyone needs to take a breath, relax. He's not having bad camp. It's not that he isn't going to be part of this offense. I think Isaiah Williams has had a good camp up to this point, and they wanted to give him the reps. And I think as far as that third wide receiver slot goes right now, I think it's going to be a mix of Omar Cooper Jr. and Isaiah Williams. I think as the season goes on, and I think even after tonight's performances, Omar Cooper Jr. is going to kind of solidify that role of the third wide receiver more. And we'll talk about that in a second. AD, Adonai Mitchell had a big night tonight. All camp it's been talked about him and Geno's chemistry, and that was put on display. AD was the first target. for Geno, and the ball was put a little bit behind him. AD made a good catch. Then second target also went to AD Mitchell. And I think Geno threw the ball a little late. I think he could have got it there sooner. But because of when he threw it, AD was kind of pinned on the sideline, but he made a great toe tapping catch. So, we'll take it. So AD looked good. And that chemistry that we've been hearing about seems to be legit. Mason Taylor came up big on third down. I said it in game one. He was a reliable and receiver for Cade Klubnik in game one early on. Easy target, and popped up here again. With Kenyon Sadiq not getting reps right now, I think it's important to remember Mason Taylor is a pretty viable tight end and has a good receiving ability. I think when Kenyon Sadiq does return and as he gets acclimated and is built into this offense, will Mason Taylor's role diminish? Probably, but I'm not too worried about it. I think having Mason Taylor as a tight end one right now is okay. And I think he might be your tight end one in week one, depending on how many reps Kenyon Sadiq's able to get in practice and if he's going to really be able to go full speed. So there's no reason to rush him back, Kenyon Sadiq, that is, when you have Mason Taylor. Next third down, Jets found themselves in. Geno went to Garrett Wilson. Threw a ball pretty much only Garrett could catch. Garrett kind of had to make a sliding catch to get it. It was fine. Kept the chains moving. So good to see Garrett Wilson out there again. Him and Geno Smith seem to be on a good wavelength. And then the drive ended with a touchdown pass to Jelani Woods. Kind of that third tight end right now. I think as far as tight end depth chart goes, it is Mason Taylor, Kenyon Sadiq 1 and 2, and Jelani Woods seems to be number 3, which kind of puts Ruckert in a bubble position. I think he'll be carried on this team, I believe, and I'm going to talk more about that kind of later on. But Jelani Woods has proven himself to be a pretty good tight end for this team. He's a big target, big body, and it was a pretty simple little speed out. Geno's rolling out to his left, hits Jelani Woods in the flat. Jelani takes it, makes a nice athletic play, runs through a guy at the goal line for the touchdown. As far as opening drives go, it was perfect. Geno was perfect. The offense kept the ball moving. Braylon Allen didn't really do much in the run game. But, as far as the offense as a whole, it was good. It was all productive, all positive, aside from the batted ball, which technically was a completion, but also was a loss of yards. After that was it for Geno. That was it for Garrett. I think INTS Mitchell, too, came out after that as well, and it really was second-team guys. So you had Isaiah Williams come in with the second team, and that kind of is, like I said, I think him and Omar Cooper Jr. are going to be rotating as of now for that third wide receiver slot. Isaiah Williams didn't have a great night. For one of the first plays he got, actually, that I want to talk about, wasn't even a passing play or a target to him. It was a missed blocking assignment in the slot that got Braylon Allen. Was it Braylon? Or it might have been Wonga at this point. Anyway, got the run play blown up in the backfield because Isaiah Williams missed his block. Next play, ball is thrown to Isaiah Williams. It would have been a really tough catch. Well-placed ball by Cade Klubnik by the sideline. He was under pressure, kind of just floated out there, put it only where Isaiah Williams could catch it. Isaiah had a dive, got his hands on the ball, but couldn't complete the catch. Again, would have been a spectacular catch. But then, later on, he does make a catch, and he fumbles it. So Isaiah Williams, kind of a down night for him. And, again, him and Omar Cooper Jr. were kind of rotating in and out as the game went on. So everyone who was worried about Omar Cooper Jr., relax with that. I guess I'll talk about Cade next. I kind of already started talking about him. He came in on the second drive. Like I said, I would like to see more of Geno, but I get it. He just came back from the ankle, lower leg soreness, whatever it was. And again, you saw all you really needed to see from him in that first drive. So I was happy that they went to Cade, and I'm happy that they let him play through the first half. He completed the first half, and then he even came out to start the third quarter for one drive. I think that's important. A lot of fans were asking, we want to see more of Cade Klubnik. He needs the reps. Absolutely true. And it's good he got them. Cade for the night, 10 for 14, 75 yards. He was average, mid, I guess is the best way to put it. He looked like a rookie fourth round quarterback, because that's what he is. And there was a small percentage of fans, I feel like I heard saying like, oh, like let's go to Cade over Geno, let's go to Cade. And obviously that's not going to happen. And I think tonight kind of even showed you it shouldn't happen. I think Cade is a good number 2. Although I'm still not opposed to bringing in a vet, Andy Dalton, or if Aiden O'Connell, if the Raiders decide to let him go, bring in someone like that, so that your 3 quarterbacks are Geno, Cade, and some form of a veteran who's better than Bailey Zappi and Brady Cook. That way, if something were to happen to Geno early in the year, you don't have to turn to Cade right away. I think Cade still needs time to develop, and I think he can develop into a good backup quarterback. Right now, I think that's where we're looking at. Maybe down the line he can become a starter, but not this season. I don't think he's quite there yet, especially early on in the season. If we have to turn to him, I wouldn't have much confidence in him, and I think it could really be a detriment to his development. So I'm not saying bring in a vet to take Cade's spot as the backup, but bring in a vet to protect Cade Klubnik and to protect this team's season from potentially getting derailed by having to put in a Bailey Zappi or a Brady Cook, whichever one they decide to keep. So again, Cade Klubnik's performance, it was up and down. Some of that I attribute though to him working with the second unit. That offensive line did him no favors. Pass protection was pretty abysmal. He got sacked a couple times. He was under some pressure quite often. But with that being said, after negative plays, he did have a tendency to bounce back and do something positive, which is good. He never let things get out of hand or snowball on him. He kind of kept up with it. Early on, he got pressured, lofted a ball out there, and it was intentional grounding. What's he do to keep the drive alive? He then 16-yard scamper for a first down. Like, kid's an athlete, showed potential. Like I said, pretty average performance for him. I'm happy with it. I think other Jets fans should be as well. He has showed he has skills, attributes that can be developed given the right timing and system and all of that. So we don't want to see him forced into early starts in this season. Before I start going on to those second tier guys, we'll talk about defense. Defense looked good. The defensive line looked pretty solid, I thought, early on. I wasn't all that impressed by the run defense as the game went on. I think Jalen Warren and that Steelers first group kind of did some pushing around a bit. I know the Jets did hold them to a shutout, but the Steelers were able to move the ball pretty effectively with the run. Obviously, some good things that came from defense. David Bailey getting a sack against Broderick Jones. That's a starting tackle, and he did it. It was a great rep. Got a sack. Good to see. Making an impact right away. We saw less Will McDonald tonight, and when David Bailey was out there, it was Kingsley Mbare on the opposite side. Not him and Will McDonald playing together, which we saw in the first preseason game. And that's kind of what I expected as they're getting health back on that defensive line. I think it's going to be David Bailey getting reps and Joseph Osai, Kingsley Mbare, one of those two on the opposite end. And Will McDonald will come in and David Bailey will be out. So I don't think they're going to be playing opposite of each other. I think they're going to be one's on the field, one's off the field. But yeah, so a lot more David Bailey than Will McDonald. And the defense got pretty extended reps this game. They went pretty deep into, I want to say almost the entire first quarter, maybe even a little bit of the second quarter as well. A lot of starters were out there. Demario Davis was out there for a good stretch. Jamie Sherwood. So the defensive front, Harrison Phillips, Juwan Briggs, Will McDonald, David Bailey, Kingsley Nabare, they were all out there for an extended period of time. And, they each had their moments. Juwan Briggs made a couple plays. Harrison Phillips made a couple plays up the middle. And again, you're still missing T'Vondre Sweat. But I think this defensive line has a lot of talent. It's pretty deep. And hopefully our run defense is much improved from last year. Again, still wasn't all that impressed with it, but it does look better. Tackling as a whole looks better for our defensive unit. In the secondary, who had a good game, Dane Belton. Dane Belton was all over the field. He had 2 tackles at the line of scrimmage coming up from safety. He is always buzzing around the ball. He had a good special teams tackle on kickoff, came flying down the field, for like a minimal return, tackle him inside the 20. He had another one tackle on punt. So Dane Belton really pushing Andre Sisco for that second safety spot, playing next to Minkah Fitzpatrick. And again, kind of similar to the Isaiah Williams situation we're seeing on offense, it seems like Dane Belton and Andre Sisco are going back and forth with who's going to get that spot. And tonight was a big win, I think, for Dane Belton. Sisco early on didn't look to have much going on for him, although he did end up getting that interception. I know we don't know what those are. So an interception is when the defense catches a pass. Shocking, but awesome for Andre Sisco. And then he kind of, as the game went on, he was out there with going up against, the Steelers' second group. He looked better, made some more plays. But again, I think all in all tonight goes to Dane Belton, who had just a great game. But that interception was pretty big for Sisco. I guess talking about safeties too, this kind of puts us into this awkward position with Malachi Moore. I don't know if he's making this roster right now. Minkah Fitzpatrick, Dane Belton, Andre Sisco. Those are your 3 safeties that they're definitely carrying. Are they going to carry Malachi Moore as a 4th? I don't know. That defensive back room is already pretty crowded. I know D'Angelo Pons and Sean Wright are hurt, but you still have A.Z. Thomas, Brandon Stevens. These are corners now, but how many defensive backs are you carrying? And it's getting pretty filled up. And someone else who's played good against Tampa Bay and I think also had a pretty solid game today is Jordan Clark. He was also all over the place making tackles today. So, and Malachi Moore, there was a couple good plays, but I don't know. A lot of times I saw him not doing too well in coverage, tackling. So I just, that safety position, that safety competition, it's definitely Dane Belton or Andre Sisco. And right now, I think fans are leaning towards Dane Belton, especially after having had watched Sisco last year, and it wasn't that great. I know he got hurt, but I don't see where Malachi Moore fits in. Someone else, I guess, we'll talk about kind of in a similar situation with Malachi Moore, who drafted last year as well, is Arian Smith. He is not making this team. He is 100% on the bubble. He was playing way late into the fourth quarter, which I think tells you a lot. He got no real reps in the first half outside of special teams. And the one notable play from him on special teams was on punt return, and he got a block in the back. I texted my friend right after that. I said, Arian Smith should be cut because he is right now adding no value to this team. I think there are other guys. If you're looking to keep Arian Smith, it's not because he's a wide receiver. It's going to be because of his special team play. But I think you get better special team play from other guys like Jordan Clark, even Dane Belton. I know he's going to be a starting safety, but there's better players. There's better options right now than Arian Smith. And it's not great that two guys who were drafted just a year ago are already looking like they're going to be cuts, but it is what it is, and you got to take the more talented players. So more about some of those second team guys. Ruckert, talking about tight ends earlier. So Jeremy Ruckert's kind of been relegated, I guess. As of now, with Kansas City out, he's the third tight end. But I don't know. I think they're going to keep Jeremy Ruckert. He had a play where he forced at the time it was called a turnover. He forced a fumble on punt, and the ball popped up into McLean's hands, and it was a fumble recovery on the punt. And I was like, wow, like that never happens for the Jets. It's usually the other way around. Unfortunately, it was overturned, and I was like, that's typical, because anytime anything good happens to the Jets, it's usually reversed. Although that turnover was reversed later on in that drive by the Steelers. Andre Sisco gets the interception, so it all worked out. But yeah, so Rucker might be making his biggest impact this year as a special teams guy. And I think how I see this shaking out is if you're gonna be taking Kenyon Sadiq, Mason Taylor, Jelani Woods, and Jeremy Ruckert, 4 tight ends, a guy who I think is getting cut, is in the cut spot, is Andrew Beck, the fullback. In the last couple of years, he was kind of that special team fullback, tight end hybrid position that seemed to be part of their system. New coaching staff, I don't think he fits in anymore. I know he's kind of was a fan favorite. I know a lot of people like him, but again, it's just kind of how it goes. He doesn't seem to be fitting in if they're going to be carrying all those tight ends. Some other things I noted. Brandon Stevens had a pass breakup. He looked okay. Like I said, that defense got an extended rep. So I was really trying to watch the secondary, but it's so hard because A.Z. Thomas and Brandon Stevens right now, they're the only 2 of the 4 corners who are potentially starting. It is, right, A.Z. Thomas, Brandon Stevens, Nashawn Wright, and D'Angelo Pons, and half of them are hurt. D'Angelo Pons and Nashawn Wright aren't playing, so it's all the reps are going to AZ and Brandon Stevens, those first team reps. I didn't think AZ looked great tonight. I think he's got potential and a ceiling, but he didn't make any really great plays. He got beaten coverage a couple times, so I still think that defensive back position is pretty open. I'm hoping Nashawn Wright, D'Angelo Pons, I hope they're getting back soon. I'd like some more evaluation. You have Jarvis Brownlee, who's playing more of that nickel slot position. He got a good amount of reps too. Which again just goes to show you how many D-backs are they carrying, and how likely it is that Malachi Moore is getting cut. Another defensive back who had a good game was Trey Brown. Obviously, his reps were inflated because of all the injuries at corner, but Trey Brown he played a lot and he made a lot of good plays. He played in the first half and he played all the way through the second half as well. I don't know. Again, I don't think they're keeping him. I don't know how it shakes out, but he had a really good game. Womack had the second interception. I wrote, what's happening? Because after the first interception, the next drive, we get another interception, and I was literally like, what is happening? We are in the upside down. It's nice. It's nice to see the Jets do good things. How often does that happen? One thing I do want to talk about, and this is probably going to wrap it up, is the 2-minute drill with Cade Klubnik. It was a pretty good run, 2-minute drill. He first finds Omar, then they try to run the ball, doesn't go very far. Then he hits Isaiah Williams. Then he takes a sack, which obviously he can't do, but I'm not really blaming him much for that. The offensive line was pretty shaky. Then he gets a nice third down conversion after the sack to McLean, followed up by another sack, which knocked him out of field goal range. But that wasn't Cade Klubnik's fault. If you watch the rep, Kene Wangu got blown up by, I think it was a linebacker that came up blitzing, or maybe it was a stunt off the edge, and Nwangu was responsible for picking up the block, and he tried to meet the man instead of, usually you see running backs cut a guy. He did not. He tried to meet him, and he just got blown up backwards and resulted in Klubnik getting sacked. So not entirely Klubnik's fault. He's working with the guys who he had around him, but nonetheless, Klubnik does end up getting them in a long field goal range situation, a 59-yard field goal, which, look, that's long, but a lot of teams in this NFL have kickers who can do it. And this brings us to the Jets kicking competition. They trot out Cade York. I was kind of surprised. I think Jason Sanders is the more established and better kicker, but they are kind of just rotating 1-1. So, like, I think Sanders kicked the first PAT. Then the next opportunity was this field goal. So it's Cade York's turn. Misses it badly wide right. Again, not an easy kick, but you'd like to have a kicker who can hit over 50. Jason Sanders did come on later in the game to hit a 39-yard field goal. He nailed it. I don't want to say it solidifies it. I think they're going to continue to carry both of them for the remainder of camp and this preseason and wait to make a decision. But I think right now it's obviously going to go to Jason Sanders. But that's like the most important takeaways from this game. Like I said, there was quite a lot to look at and take away. Some other guys of note, just who made plays later in the game in the second half when you're talking about, again, the guys who clearly aren't making the roster. Nate Lynn, 2 sacks. Chase Wilson got a sack. Nate Lynn's defensive lineman, Chase Wilson's a linebacker. But I don't think either of these guys are sticking out on the roster, but good for them. Junior Bergen, who was just signed 3 days ago, had punt return responsibilities tonight. He had one really great return. He had another great play, little screen pass from Bailey Zappi, and he went like 30, 40 yards, whatever it was. Brady Cook in garbage time on the 4th down chucks up a ball to Quentin Skinner Jr. for a touchdown, which gets the Jets to 17 after the Cade York PAT. So those are some of the back-end guys. But, again, of those names I just mentioned, none of them are really making the roster. So I think vibes after this one are going to be pretty high from Jet fans. They're going to be excited about what they saw from Geno Smith. I think, although Cade Klubnik wasn't great, you're happy with what you saw from him. Defensively, they looked, I know I said I wasn't happy with the run defense all that much, but I think you're happy with what you saw from David Bailey and that defensive line up front as far as the plays they made. Tackling as a whole was better. Guys were making good tackles in the open field, such as Jordan Clark and others, Demario Davis, Dane Belton. It looked good. It looked sharp. And that's kind of going to, I don't want to say do it. Obviously, there's one preseason game left, but no one of real note, I think, is going to get meaningful playing time. Maybe you'll have a few guys who are still battling out for spots. That's what you're going to be looking for in Game 3 against the Giants, but you're not going to be putting out your number ones and risk any injuries right before the season starts. So while it's still an important point to evaluate that third preseason game, it's not going to be as telling as tonight was. Tonight, I think, like I said, a lot to take away from it. I think there was a lot of good. And I think you saw a lot of why the Jets are going to be better this upcoming season than they were last. And why they're going to get to 6 wins. All right, that's going to do it for me. Hopefully that wasn't too long. And, you got what you needed from this video if you didn't feel like watching an entire preseason football game of the New York Jets. For anyone of note, if you notice, I'm missing my Jets poster in the background. That's been in the previous 3 videos. I'm in the middle of a move. Don't worry, I have it with me. It's just not set up yet. So it'll be back in the next video. All right, thanks, guys. See you next time.